In his final interview, James Dean warned against the dangers of driving too fast, just days before he was killed in a car accident. You won't believe how many other actors had foreboding or poignant last interviews. Matthew Perry shot to fame in 1994 when he landed the iconic role of Chandler Bing on Friends. But despite a robust career, Perry faced personal struggles going in and out of rehab for alcohol and substance abuse. Perry eventually found his way to sobriety, and in one of his last interviews a year before his death, he discussed how he wanted to be remembered. The best thing about me, bar none, is if somebody comes up to me and says, "I can't stop drinking, can you help me?" I can say yes and follow up and do it. When I die, I don't want friends to be the first thing that's mentioned. I want that to be the first thing that's mentioned.
Because I was on Friends, more people will listen to me. So I've got to take advantage of that. I've got to help as many people as I can.
Perry died from an accidental ketamine overdose on October 28, 2023, at the age of 54. Heath Ledger's shocking death from an accidental drug overdose rocked Hollywood. He had found fame by playing Patrick Verona in 10 Things I Hate About You, and became a household name with Brokeback Mountain. But these days, he's probably best remembered for playing the Joker in The Dark Knight, a role that earned him a posthumous Academy Award. While the Joker is one of Ledger's most celebrated roles, he told the New York Times that playing the character was mentally and physically taxing. Ledger also spoke about his insomnia, explaining that he only slept about 2 hours a night. That lack of sleep contributed to depression and drug addiction to combat his insomnia. In his final interview, he spoke with Chuck the Movie Guy about his part in I'm Not There, in which he played one of 6 versions of Bob Dylan. But on January 22, 2008, just 2 months after the film's premiere, Ledger was found unresponsive in his bed, and attempts to revive him failed. He was only 28. Michael Jackson was known as the King of Pop, so when he suddenly died from cardiac arrest on June 25, 2009 at the age of 50, his passing shocked the world. His death resulted from an overdose of propofol, resulting in the conviction of his physician, Conrad Murray, of involuntary manslaughter. Jackson started his career alongside his brothers in the Jackson 5, but became one of the most famous celebrities on Earth with the success of his 1982 solo album Thriller. He went on to sell hundreds of millions of albums worldwide. Toward the end of his life, Jackson fought off allegations of child sexual abuse. Though he was acquitted, his image suffered significant damage. Still, in his final interview before his untimely death, Jackson spent most of his time focusing on the music, including a collaboration with Black Eyed Peas rapper will.i.am. Jackson said in an Access Hollywood interview,
I think he's doing wonderful, innovative, positive, great music. Thought it'd be interesting to collaborate.
The music from that collaboration has never been released, and will.i.am says it never will be. Paul Walker starred in numerous projects throughout his life, but fans remember Walker best for playing Brian O'Connor in the Fast and the Furious franchise. Tragically, Furious 7 would be his final film role. On November 30th, 2013, Walker left an event with Roger Rodas, who drove at high speed into a light pole, causing their car to burst into flames. Both men died almost instantly. Walker's brother Cody helped portray him in a final tribute scene in Furious 7. Just a couple of weeks before his death, Walker participated in a series of interviews promoting his film The Hours, a movie about a man dealing with the death of a loved one. Speaking with Extra, Walker talked about approaching middle age and learning to truly love acting, and he also gave advice for anyone who has faced loss.
You get up and you keep going, you're going to find purpose again. You're going to find a sense of self again. You're going to figure out what's up and what's going on and what it's really all about.
Robin Williams was one of his generation's most talented comedic actors, and he was a master of improvisation. He proved his dramatic chops as well in films like Good Will Hunting and Dead Poets Society. Sadly, Williams took his own life at the age of 63 on August 11, 2014. An autopsy found evidence of diffuse Lewy body dementia, which contributed to his depression. Williams spoke with the press often, but his final interview in 2013 came months before his passing, when he talked about playing President Dwight D. Eisenhower in The Butler as part of the film's promotion. In the interview, Williams explained why the role of Eisenhower resonated so much with him.
He's a fascinating guy. I mean, he's kind of a quiet ego among large egos, but he has a kind of a quiet strength too.
Betty White was known as the First Lady of Television for an incredible career that spanned more than 70 years and included hit shows like The Mary Tyler Moore Show and Golden Girls. She even holds the Guinness World Record for the longest TV career for a female entertainer before she passed away at the age of 99 on December 31st, 2021, following a stroke. Just prior to her death, people conducted White's final interview for a cover article focused on how she felt about the prospect of turning 100. Calling herself a cockeyed optimist, White said, "I'm so lucky to be in such good health and feel so good at this age. It's amazing." Sadly, White died soon after the interview's publication, just weeks before she would have turned 100 years old. Despite her age, White's death shocked the world. Her agent spoke for everyone when he told People, "Even though Betty was about to be 100, I thought she would live forever." Following her passing, her assistant posted a video on Instagram that White recorded just days before her death with a final message for her fans.
"I just want to thank you all for your love and support over the years."
Robbie Coltrane worked through 5 decades, mainly in television and film, appearing in GoldenEye, Ocean's 12, and dozens of other movies. But he's best known for playing Rubeus Hagrid in all 8 Harry Potter films. Coltrane's final interview came in celebration of the 20th anniversary of the Harry Potter franchise as part of an HBO special. Coltrane reflected on his work in the films, which amounted to a decade of his life. He acknowledged that his children grew up during that period and said,
"The legacy of the movies is that my children's generation will show them to their children. So you could be watching it in 50 years' time. Easy."
He then poignantly added,
"I'll not be here, sadly, but don't you think on it for 1 minute. But Hagrid will. Yes."
Coltrane's health declined due to constant pain from osteoarthritis, requiring the use of a wheelchair beginning in 2019. His health remained poor for 2 years leading up to his death on October 14, 2022, at the age of 72. Leslie Jordan rose to fame with his role on Will and Grace, but he found a new generation of fans during the COVID-19 pandemic. Without another outlet for his comedic creativity, Jordan turned to social media and amassed a vast following that revitalized his career. This led to the publication of his autobiography, How Y'all Doing? Misadventures and Mischief from a Life Well Lived in 2021. Jordan spoke with CBS Mornings in his final interview, which focused on his life and recent career change as a surprise Instagram influencer. Jordan also added singing to his list of accomplishments with the release of his album Company's Comin' in 2021. He told CBS, "It was so unexpected just to happen in my 60s. I'm a country music singer now." Sadly, on October 24, 2022, Jordan crashed his car into the side of a building, likely due to a medical emergency, and was found unresponsive on the scene. The official cause of death was sudden cardiac dysfunction. He was 67. Kirstie Alley's first major film role as Lieutenant Saavik in Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan made her a star, but it was her role as Rebecca Howe on Cheers, which she played for 6 seasons, that made her a household name. She also starred in the Look Who's Talking trilogy and spent some time in reality television towards the end of her career, with her final performance coming in the 7th season of The Masked Singer. In one of her final interviews, Alley talked about playing Saavik, a role that went to Robin Curtis in 2 sequels. Alley explained that the studio didn't offer her enough money for the role, so it went to Curtis, though Alley said she would have liked to reprise the role. In May 2022, Alley received a diagnosis of colon cancer and began chemotherapy treatments soon after in Tampa, Florida. Sadly, she died on December 5, 2022, at the age of 71. Legendary musician John Lennon and his wife Yoko Ono lived in Manhattan, which is also where he died. On December 8, 1980, Lennon was shot and killed outside his apartment building, just hours after finishing what would be his final interview with a group of radio broadcasters.
Lennon shouted that, "I know I've been shot." He stumbled up several steps into the Dakota and collapsed.
In the interview, Lennon spoke about his son, Sean, and how he met and fell in love with his wife. They also discussed his daily activities and his hopes for the future, hopes that sadly would never come to pass. The murder of Lennon shocked the world. He was a founding member of the Beatles, one of the most successful and influential bands in music history. Lennon co-wrote many of the Beatles' songs and continued performing after the band broke up. Lennon's solo career centered around activism, resulting in some of his most celebrated songs, including his peace anthem, Imagine. The son of Bruce Lee, Brandon Lee, followed in his father's footsteps to become a martial artist and actor. Lee paid his dues in films like Kung Fu the Movie and Showdown in Little Tokyo opposite Dolph Lundgren, before he landed the lead in 1994's The Crow, which would be both his breakout and final film role. During the film's production, Lee promoted The Crow by speaking to the media. His final interview came during one of these promotional junkets, which is included in the making of The Crow. In the interview, Lee speaks enthusiastically about the movie and being cast to play Eric Draven. He talks about the Crow in the movie and how it guides his character back from the dead to remind him of what the bad guys took from him.
It's a story about justice for victims.
Tragically, on March 31st, 1993, while filming a scene involving a .44 Magnum revolver, a blank round dislodged a fragment from the improperly cleared barrel of the weapon, which hit Lee in the abdomen. He died shortly after at the age of 28 from the gunshot wound. Paul Newman starred in some of the best films of his generation, including Cool Hand Luke, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, and The Sting. Newman won the Academy Award for Best Actor in 1987 for The Color of Money, which was only one of his 9 acting nominations. He also won an honorary Academy Award recognizing his lifetime of work in film. Newman's life revolved around acting, but he was also a World War II veteran, a racing enthusiast, and a philanthropist, with his Newman's Own food brand helping generate over $500 million in donations to help needy children. Newman continued working in film and television until the end, though his failing health limited most of his work to voiceover roles like Doc Hudson in Cars. His health problems are apparent in his final interview as he and TV host Renee Liu shop in a farmer's market. For most of their talk, Newman focused on his wife, Joanne Woodward, as the two held hands beneath the table, saying,
"I've always said Joanne was the best-looking tomato in the kitchen."
Newman died soon after on September 26, 2008, from lung cancer. He was 83. Anne Heche appeared in several high-profile movies including Donnie Brasco, I Know What You Did Last Summer, and 6 Days, 7 Nights. As her career progressed, Heche got into directing and returned to the theater and television, but despite her impressive career in multiple entertainment mediums, Heche's name often dominated headlines for personal reasons. Heche's highly publicized relationship and breakup with Ellen DeGeneres made her a tabloid target for years. After the couple broke up, Heche had a mental health crisis, which she detailed in her memoir Call Me Crazy. In 2020, Heche became a contestant on the 29th season of Dancing with the Stars, which she discussed in her final podcast interview on Behind the Velvet Rope. Heche gave the interview in January 2022, and it was published in August of that year, shortly after her untimely death. In the interview, Heche was asked who she would want to play her if they ever made a movie of her life. She said her choices would be either Miley Cyrus or Kristen Bell, saying of Bell,
"Charm, gorgeous timing, and humor. I see myself a lot in hers."
Sadly, on August 5th, 2022, Heche's car crashed at high speed into a home in Los Angeles. She was severely injured in the accident and became comatose. Heche died on August 11th at the age of 53. Suzanne Somers' career spanned 7 decades, but she's probably best known for playing Chrissy Snow on Three's Company. She was also the spokeswoman for the Thigh Master exercise machine that dominated television advertisements through the 1990s. However, Somers was known for holding controversial views about health and medicine, writing over 24 alternative medicine books. In response to her death, the Los Angeles Times wrote that she, quote, pioneered the role of celebrity purveyor of medical misinformation. Somers conducted her final interview with People via email, where she discussed a recent breast cancer diagnosis. "As you know, I had breast cancer 2 decades ago, and every now and then it pops up again, and I continue to bat it down. I have used the best alternative and conventional treatments to combat it. This is not new territory for me. I know how to put on my battle gear, and I'm a fighter." Just 1 week later, Somers died the day before her 77th birthday on October 15, 2023. Tyler Christopher joined the General Hospital cast in 1996, playing Nicholas Cassadine and his lookalike Connor Bishop. He remained a part of General Hospital for nearly 20 years, while also making appearances on other shows from The Lying Game to Days of Our Lives. Christopher gave his final interview with Digital Journal during a fan event in New York City. The interview covered a broad range of topics, including Christopher's Emmy Award for his work on General Hospital, saying, "I didn't hold back, and that paid off in the end. Don't hold back. That's how I approach my work. I trust my instincts, I don't hold back, and that gets me through it. This allows me to take chances in my scenes." In his personal life, Christopher struggled with alcoholism. On October 31st, 2023, Christopher died in his San Diego, California apartment at the age of 50. According to People, the official cause of death was positional asphyxiation due to acute alcohol intoxication. James Dean's career was short, but even though he only starred in 3 films, he was one of the most celebrated actors of his generation. In fact, only East of Eden came out before his death. Dean became the first actor to be nominated for an Oscar after his death for East of Eden and would be honored a year later for his work in Giant. While promoting Giant on an episode of Warner Bros. Presents, Dean was interviewed by fellow actor Gig Young about racing and driving competitively. Intended as a public service announcement about proper driving safety, Young asks Dean whether it's safe to drive fast on the highway. Dean warns the audience that it's a bad idea.
Take it easy driving. The life you might save might be mine.
The segment never aired. Less than 2 weeks after it was filmed on September 30th, 1955, Dean was killed in a car accident while driving to a race in his Porsche 550 Spider. He was 24. Marilyn Monroe is one of the most famous sex symbols of the 20th century, but she was more than just a pretty face, showing her dramatic and comedic skills in films like Gentlemen Prefer Blondes, The 7-Year Itch, and Some Like It Hot. But she was also the subject of constant media scrutiny and struggled with substance abuse and mental health issues. Monroe's final interview with Richard Merriman of Life magazine appeared in the August 3, 1962 issue. In the interview, Monroe talks about the pressures of living life in front of the cameras. When you're famous, you kind of run into human nature in a raw kind of way. It stirs up envy, fame does. I don't look at myself as a commodity, but I'm sure a lot of people have. Monroe's distaste for fame comes across clearly in the interview, and she sums it up best saying, "Everybody is always tugging at you." 2 days after the article hit the streets, Monroe was found lying face down on her bed, dead at the age of 36. John Wayne was a cultural icon. Known as the Duke, he appeared in nearly 150 movies throughout his 6-decade career. Wayne's most prominent work was in westerns like True Grit and The Searchers, turning him into a walking, talking representation of America's frontier spirit. Wayne struggled with cancer for 15 years before his death. He first underwent surgery for lung cancer in 1964, and in 1979, a gallbladder removal operation found stomach cancer. In his final interview, Barbara Walters asked Wayne about facing death due to his poor health and if he had a philosophy on life. Wayne replied, "Listen, I spoke to the man up there on many occasions, and I've always had deep faith that there's a supreme being. The fact that he's let me stick around a little longer certainly goes great with me."
And I want to hang around as long as I'm healthy and not in anybody's way.
The day after Walter's interview with Wayne, he went into the hospital and never recovered. Wayne died from stomach cancer on June 11, 1979, at the age of 72. Judy Garland is probably best known today for playing Dorothy Gale in The Wizard of Oz, but she also appeared in a number of other iconic roles, including A Star is Born, and had a successful singing career as well. Sadly, her personal issues complicated her professional life. Garland dealt with mental illness and addiction, which also affected her physical health, making it difficult for her to work. On March 26, 1969, Garland gave what would be her final interview with Radio Denmark. In the interview, Garland looked back at her time in the spotlight, stating, "My life and my career have been like a roller coaster. I'm either an enormous success or just a down-and-out failure. It's been an interesting life." 3 months after the interview, Garland's husband, Mickey Deans, found her sitting on the toilet holding her head, dead of an accidental drug overdose at the age of 47.